Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about global economics and international business by me, James Eugene Atmaja, MBA September 2021, IPMI International Business School, a class by Bu Yulita and Prof Sembel. Now let's get into the mind mapping. So let's get into the part 1 of the mind mapping, that is international trade and labor and environmental standards. So we learn number 1 is setting standards that consists of harmonizations of standards, mutual recognition of standards, and separate standards. Number 2, we learn about labor standards that consist of prohibition of forced labor, freedom of association, the right to organize and bargain collectively, cessation of the exploitation of child labor, non-discrimination in employment. Number 3, we learn about trade and environment that consists of transboundary problems and non-transboundary problems. We learn about environment standards too. And number 4, there is alternative to trade measures. In here, we learn about labeling, home country standards, and negotiations. So let's get into the part 2 of the mind mapping, that is the theory of tariffs and quotas. So number 1, tariff and quota. Tariff is a tax on import and quota is a physical limit on import quantity. We learn about separate standards too. Number 2, we learn about consumer surplus, that is the value of a good or service that is in excess of what a customer has to pay. Number 3, we learn about producers surplus, the revenue received by producers that is in excess of the minimum they need to produce a given amount. And number 4, we learn about before and after tariff equations. There's the equation before and after equations. So let's get into the part 3 of the mind mapping, that is international finance. In international finance, number 1, we learn about absolute and comparative advantage. For absolute, produce product more efficient than any other nation, and comparative advantage, produce product more efficient than any other product. Number 2, we learn about international opportunities that consist of investment and financing opportunities. Number 3, we learn about management tasks that consist of choose a capital structure, raise funds for the firm, working capital and cash flow management, capital budgeting, managing currency risk, and manage the diversity. And lastly, we learn about international taxation that is consists of direct tax, indirect tax, and sales tax. So for the part 4 of the mind mapping, that is international issues in global economy, we learn number 1, there is risk in international business. The risk is commercial risk, currency risk, cross-culture risk, and country risk. Number 2, we learn about currencies and exchange rates. We learn about most currencies are not very convertible and foreign exchange market. Number 3, we learn about supply and demand for a currency that consists of economic growth, market psychology, inflation, government action, and balance of payment. And number 4, we learn about trade and surplus deficit that consists of for trade surplus, export exceeds imports, and trade deficit, imports exceeds exports. And we learn about balance of trade, the difference between the value of a nation's exports and its imports. So for the part 5, we learn about international business. Number 1, we learn about international opportunities that consist of investment and financing opportunities. Number 2, definitions. That is domestic business, international business, multinational business, and global business. Number 3, we learn about managing the process of globalization. That consists of exporting, importing, and licensing. And number 4, we learn about processes of globalization that consists of strategic alliance, joint venture, and direct investment. So let's get into the part 6 of the mind mapping, that is strategy and organization in the international firm. We learn number 1, strategic objectives, that is efficiency, flexibility, and learning. Number 2, we learn about visionary leadership that consists of international mindset and cosmopolitan values, willingness to commit resources. Number 3, strategic visions and willingness to invest in human assets. Number 3, we learn about industry that is consists of multi-domestic industry and global industry. And lastly, we learn about strategies emerging from the integration responsiveness framework that consists of home replication strategy, multi-domestic strategy, global strategy, and transnational strategy. So let's move into the part 7 of the mind mapping, that is marketing in global firm. Number 1, we learn about international marketing. The cultural, social, political, legal, and regulatory environment of the international markets influences the way the firm develops, adapts, and market products and services. Number 2, we learn about market segmentations that consist of income levels, lifestyle, demographic profile, and desired product benefits. Number 3, we learn about standardization and adaptation that consists of global integration and local responsiveness. And number 4, we learn about global branding that consists of efficiency and effectiveness of marketing programs, facilitates the ability to charge premium prices, increase the firm's leverage with resellers, stimulates brand loyalty, and inspires trust and confidence in the product. So in the part 8, we learn about human resource management in the global firm. In here, we learn about number 1, employee categories in the M&A. We learn about host country nationals, parent country nationals, and third country nationals. Number 2, we learn about key tasks of IHRM that consists of international staffing policy, preparation training of international employees, international performance appraisal, compensation of employees, international labor relations, diversity in the international workforce. Number 3, we learn about employee characteristics that consist of job knowledge, self-reliance, adaptability, interpersonal skills, leadership ability, and physical and emotional health. And number 4, we learn about components of training personnel for international that consists of area of studies, practical information, and cross-cultural awareness. So that's all from the mind mapping. I hope you guys can learn something new today. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay healthy and safe always.